Right, click the links that you on the channel here. Become a member over at subscribe so I get a mailbox on a mail some comics or whatever. So, video games, diversity and sensitivity readers. This is the woman who is the CEO of Sweet Baby Incorporated, Kim Bellar. Twitter Sweet Bagel or something. It would be fascinating to deeper dive into these people who work at the company, and more importantly, who funded them and who kind of put them in place. That would tell you a lot. Always follow the money and ask who benefits. So video game companies are hiring sensitivity readers from these type of companies to subvert and corrupt games and fill them with mostly anti-white racist propaganda. What happens is, for example, this company called Sweet Baby Incorporated is a grifting consulting company that is actually a globalist Bolshevik company used to push anti-European feeling and degrade and dehumanize the already marginalized European people. What's going on here is huge, and I'm going to try to get it around the YouTube filters. What happens is a company makes a game, and that should be it. Why would you need a globalist parasite company to come along to take the game and then filter it through the Marxist good think filter? It just seems like, a grift, and it is. And you look at these grifting, these consultants, these filter companies, you go, how come they all look like this? How come they're all far left? They're openly Bolshevik. You can scroll through their social media, do a deep dive. And I mean, they're openly all toxic, far alt-left types of people. How come there's no right-wing filters? Because those people don't get funded by the... they don't get the funding by the those big names that guy on Fox mentioned, and he had the girls from Fox lost their minds when he said that guy's name. The institutional investors, people control trillions of dollars. It's weird that nobody on the right gets that kind of funding. It's all this level, someone with a cell phone. So you look at these games, you go, and these people, the Sweet Baby type of companies, consulting companies, you go, well, wait a minute, we don't need filters. Why aren't people just allowed to get the raw, unfiltered games? Because we're in the midst of an all-out bullshit information war, and they view comics, movies, games as vectors to carry this propaganda to push their worldview and to call our views toxic hate. But our views are the natural, organic ones. We want the raw story we want the artist's original intention. We don't need any globalist filters. You look at these companies and like their paid consulting fees. So you guys are just parasites essentially. But you have Larry Fink, Schwab, BlackRock, and other institutional investors who fund certain things to push an anti-nation, anti-family, anti-European agenda. They're globalists. Their goal is to destroy the West by destroying history and the past and the future by changing how people see themselves and how they see other people who, in their mind, they categorize as the protagonists of the human story and then the antagonists that it's safe to dehumanize, degrade, and even there's a stage to a mass removal of a people, and you have to get the psychology right, and you're on this stage of that. Why do you think you're seeing the things you see in commercials now, or games and movies and comics, where the people who look like you are portrayed as stupid, malicious, and incompetent, and the people who aren't you are the Mary Sue purse puppies? Doesn't that strike you as odd? Why do you think the race swapping only goes one way? And from Sweet Baby's website, it says that they're a narrative company with the mission to diversify and make games more inclusive. And they view that as a positive, mostly by removing European characters, except that it isn't. It's cancer. It's globalist propaganda that at its core is anti-white, because it only applies to subverting and corrupting the European stories and people. You have to just stop and look at their statement and openly say you disagree with it because it's evil. Diversity makes stories worse. We're not globalists. We're tribalists. We don't want to see European characters erased from stories any more than her tribe, non-Euros, want to see themselves replaced. We want to see stories go in the other direction, to see tribal stories, where people are naturally connected to each other and fighting for their tribes, not for words on paper, the Constitution type of magic, or the magic soil, or some mutable ideology. Modern globalist stories are 1984 level, but instead of East Asia and Oceania, it would be Google versus Apple commercial NGO zone, formerly known as England, fighting France. You're not fighting for anything. Nothing matters. People are fungible, and when they no longer serve a purpose, they'll be removed and swapped out for new people. They say that they're removing insensitive things that offend people. No, That's an outright lie because they're not removing insensitive things that offend Europeans or Christians or men. What they're doing is making every story European blonde man bad. Blonde hair, blue eyed character is the only person that is allowed to be the antagonist, and that is where they want you to focus all your hatred on literally the green and blue eyed European people. That's who they're telling you it's acceptable to hate. What these companies are doing is much bigger than I am able to articulate because this level of Marxist propaganda is somewhat new to me. I don't have a PhD in this type of stuff. And the limitations of the platform, though I will say I'm learning quickly, which is also controlled by these globalist bullshies. They claim to remove insensitive, offensive things. That's an asinine claim from the start. If they removed offensive things that applied to every group, there'd be nothing left. It's a simple logical conclusion you can reach because you go, well, something is offensive to everyone. So what they do is they remove offense from every religion but Christian, from every ethnic group but mostly Western European people who are, characters are portrayed. And that's why I focus on hair color and eye color, because they're not telling you precisely who these people are, but they will in comics, especially, and sometimes in games, they're showing you the physical features. They're telling you where to direct your hate. And if you start noticing things, especially in comics, really points it out, because they'll always have to show eye color. They can't. You have to have some close-up shots. And when you notice protagonist and antagonist, and you simply do a correlation chart with eye color, you're going to notice blue is going to be the biggest one, and then the second is going to be green. And then if you for antagonists, then you notice, well, what about dark eye color, dark hair, dark skin, dark features? When are they portrayed as the antagonists? Is it naturally representative? Is it the same per capita representation? No, friend. Not at all. And you hear I'm speaking circles around the main point by not saying certain hot words, but I think you're following what I'm saying. They want you to focus all your hatred on one group of people who look like you. And you can see this very clearly in comics. And then you also see it in movies and video games. And it's time to start speaking out against this. They're lying right to your face in an egregious case of gaslighting, but nobody calls them out, mostly because the platforms won't allow it. You see how careful I have to be to get that $1.87. It's not politically correct to say diversity is cancer and it destroys stories, because the sheep are so brainwashed that they have a stimulus response. That means that they don't think, they hear the stimulus and then they just respond with a pre-programmed response, and they never actually involve the higher brain functions to do some heavy thinking about if the stimulus is logical and it leads to conclusion, because it doesn't. They make claims sans support. They use the phrase marginalized players. I view the blue and green-eyed players and people and characters as marginalized and oppressed because these companies are telling you it's acceptable to hate them. I had a theory and I provided support. It's logical. I did that in less than a minute. Their claim is everyone but European characters are marginalized and oppressed, which doesn't make sense. They're directing hatred against less than 5% of the world's population, the light-eyed, light-haired people of Europe. That, by definition, is the minority, and their focus of hatred is, by definition, marginalization and oppression. They're outright lying to you, and I just clearly and simply use logic to prove it, because they're funded by very bad, well-funded people, and I'm funded by mostly Mr. Nature and you guys. So this heels versus babyface YouTube guy, he's very carefully covering this, but YouTube is his job. He just can't go too far, and he is great, and all the other kind of channels that lead the horse as close as they can on YouTube are very cool for what they're doing within the limitations of the platform, but YouTube isn't my job. These companies, and obviously I'm never going to be very good at YouTube, but these companies are globalist worms, and you're in the middle of a soft, slow Bolshevik revolution that is going to lead to World War III. No, that's not crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, because unfortunately it naturally follows World War I and World War II. So it's pretty logical to see how humans behave throughout history, that the next one is on the way, and probably the next American Civil War is also going to happen. Too much for YouTube? Who knows? You can follow me on BitChute, Odyssey, Telegram, Discord, and all the other links in the platforms. And, Stack Rice, Liberty Items, all that kind of stuff. Let me just read this quote. We believe that representation is key to connecting players and audiences. We offer a few ways to help your team gain perspective needed to make it happen. We're part of inclusive community, diverse consultants. Translation, non-European. Able to cover a wide range of cultural sensitivity topics, except ones that obviously pertain to European people or Christians. Our approach leads with the creation of joy in marginal. This is just Marxist doublespeak. I mean, they're not saying anything. In fact, this is what they excel at, is this saying paragraphs like this to get funding, or they're already funded by those names we're not supposed to mention on YouTube. Creation of joy in marginalized players. And I stop you right here and go, yes, but in my perspective, the people that you're focusing on all your degrading, dehumanizing hatred against, the people of Western Europe, light eyes, light hairs, well, those are the marginalized people in the games and the characters and the players who are playing the games. They're marginalized and oppressed because we feel it, and I provided some evidence. Oh, no. And they don't provide any evidence because they don't have to, because they control the dissemination of information and the funding. And we're the people who are over target because we're the ones who are getting kicked off payment processors and getting kicked out of, Bank of America, Chase Bank, and getting kicked out of social media. All the dissident right-wing people who are being debanked in Europe and America and Canada, those are the people who are over target. And these left-wing people who think they're raging against the machine are the ones who are funded by Bank of America and BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, and mainstream media and mainstream social media. They're not over target. They're the useful idiots for the puppet masters. And the ones like this lady, they know what's up. This woman who owns this company, or I don't know if she owns it name only, because I don't know who got the ball rolling with the initial venture capital type of thing. She knows it, and she's a useful idiot at the same time. And I mean, a lot of the people who are associated with BLM, who cashed out of that. So like $2 billion went to BLM. And what happened to that money? And it's not so much that a scam happened. It's that nobody investigated it. It's like that, that Island Paradise story and the list associated with it. Like, that's what happens. There are monsters in the world, for sure. That's not the story so much as that the media didn't cover it. There's no investigation, either from the government or from the media. That's the story. That's the horror. That's the absolute nightmare horror, is that no channel with a social media footprint beyond a certain size will cover certain things. Because it's like, God, what was that book? When civilization gets to a certain level, this cloud comes along and destroys civilizations that have too many right angles. I literally have them on my bookshelf. Oh, Omega? Is it Omega? I'm literally looking at it now. Jack McDermott? I think that is that story. I gave away a bunch of Jack McDermott's books, but I think it is the Omega story by Jack McDermott. You're just wearing a tinfoil hat, aren't you? No, I mean, you can hear me. I'm not crazy. All this stuff is all facets of the same crystal. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Again, thanks to Mr. Nature for the computer. It's coming in a few days. I'll be live streaming, mostly on Odyssey, because politically incorrect stuff. And the pop culture, drinking, smoking streams, whatnot, will be on YouTube occasionally. Like, comment, subscribe. Join the subscribe star. See you guys all next episode.